This happened a few months ago. I'm Jake, a 32-year-old landscape photographer. I love capturing the beauty of nature. One weekend, I decided to go camping alone in the Appalachian National Forest. I picked a remote campsite by a quiet lake. I thought it would be a perfect place to recharge and get inspired. The first night, I set up my tent and built a small fire. It felt peaceful. I listened to the sounds of the forest until I heard something rustling outside. I figured it was just a deer or some other animal. Then I heard laughter. It was faint, but it was definitely laughter. I thought maybe there were other campers nearby, even though I hadn't seen a soul all day. I brushed it off and tried to sleep, but deep down, I felt uneasy. The laughter returned every night after that. Each time, it was closer and clearer. I kept telling myself it was nothing. Maybe my mind was just playing tricks on me. But then, I started feeling watched. I would sit by the lake to take photos, but I felt like something was behind me. My skin crawled. I kept looking over my shoulder. One evening, I decided to take a walk around the campsite. It was just getting dark, and I wanted some fresh air. That's when I noticed the trees. They had faces carved into the bark, twisted, grotesque faces. My heart raced as I moved closer to look. Who would do this in the woods? I felt a chill run through me. I glanced around, but the forest was silent as if it was holding its breath. Later that night, the laughter erupted louder than ever. I lay in my sleeping bag, listening, terrified. I thought about leaving, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. It's just the wind, I kept saying to myself, but I was starting to doubt that too. I zipped up my tent and lay still in the darkness. Then, I heard a soft whisper outside. The hairs on my neck stood up, and I held my breath. This can't be real, I thought. My heart pounded as I slowly unzipped the tent just a bit. I peeked out into the darkness. Nobody was there. The laughter faded. My hand felt cold on the zipper, like ice. I wanted to call out, to ask if someone was there, but nothing came out. I slid back into my sleeping bag, shaking with fear. I left the woods the next day. The moment I packed up and drove away, I thought I'd finally feel safe. But I can't stop thinking about those nights. The laughter echoes in my dreams, haunting me. Every time I sit down to edit my photos, I hear it in the back of my mind. I wonder what I stumbled upon out there. That feeling of dread has lingered since I left. And sometimes, I just think, what if I shouldn't go back? But deep down, I know I might have to face whatever I discovered in those woods. A few weeks later, I found myself sitting in my cramped apartment, still haunted by memories of that camping trip. I couldn't stop thinking about those trees with the carved faces, the laughter, and the whisper that seemed to wrap around me like a cold wind. I tried to distract myself. I told myself it was just fear amplified by isolation. But every time I opened my laptop to edit the photos, I felt the chill creeping back. One night, I was scrolling through my pictures from the trip. Most were beautiful shots of the lake and surrounding foliage, but as I clicked through them, I found one that made me freeze. In the bottom corner of the photo, there was a dark shape, something hanging between the trees. I squinted. My heart raced as I leaned closer. It almost looked like a figure. I couldn't remember seeing anything like that while I was out there. Panic surged through me, and I almost closed my laptop, but I forced myself to keep looking. I decided to enhance the image. As I increased the contrast, the dark shape became clearer. It had a head, arms, and a twisted expression that chilled me to the core. I could see the outline of what looked like a face, something staring back at me from behind the trees. Was that a grin? I slammed my laptop shut, breathless. I knew I should ignore it, but curiosity gnawed at me. What if it was a trick of the light? What if it was just a shadow? I rubbed my temples, trying to push away the uncertainty. But then the laughter echoed in my mind, fading into the background noise of the city. I decided I needed more answers. I had to go back. That weekend, I packed my gear once again, even though my stomach twisted at the thought. Was I crazy for returning? I couldn't shake the urgency I felt. I needed to confront whatever lingered in those woods. I drove back to the same remote campsite, the drive feeling longer this time. The trees loomed tall and thick around me as I pulled into the parking lot. As I began to set up my tent, the air felt heavier. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. The laughter had haunted me for weeks, and I half expected to hear it the moment I stepped out of the car. But the forest was silent, except for the rustling of leaves as the wind picked up. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. That night, I sat by the campfire with my camera, jittery but determined. I wanted to get back the tranquility I had lost. I recounted the photos I had taken, trying to reassure myself that I was here to capture beauty and inspiration. The darkness crept in, and beams of moonlight filtered through the trees, casting elongated shadows. I was in the thick of it. Then, just as I felt myself start to relax, I heard it again, the laughter. This time, it echoed through the trees, coming from multiple directions, as if a whole group was playing some twisted game. I stood up, heart thrumming loudly in my chest. It was closer, more urgent. Panic clawed at my throat. I turned toward the sound, and when I saw it, a flicker of movement in the trees, shadows darting just out of my line of sight. I felt my blood run cold. Who was out there? I was no longer alone. Desperation surged within me as I grabbed my camera, instinct kicking in. I had to capture whatever this was. But as I turned to face the unknown, everything went dark. I jolted awake, disoriented in the pitch blackness. My heart raced as I struggled to remember where I was. The faint crackling of the dying campfire still lingered in the air, but the laughter had vanished, taking with it any sense of safety. I reached for my flashlight, fingers trembling as I fumbled with the switch. The beam cut through the darkness, but the trees were still and silent, their twisted shapes looming like specters. I shivered and slowly got to my feet, taking a step toward the fading light of the fire. But as I moved, an unsettling feeling gnawed at my insides. I wasn't alone. I could feel it in my gut. Glancing towards the tree line, I shined my light in that direction. Nothing. I felt foolish for being scared by nothing more than shadows. Just as I started to turn back to my tent, a soft voice whispered my name. "Come play with us." My stomach dropped. I froze, my body screaming for me to run, but my legs refused to move. Somehow, I knew it wasn't just my imagination, not this time. I spun around, shining the light everywhere, desperately trying to catch a glimpse of whoever had just spoken. "Is someone there?" I called out, my voice tinged with tremors. No answer, just the rustling of leaves as if something had moved deeper into the woods. I grabbed my camera instead, forcing myself to focus. I needed anything to prove I was losing my mind. As I took a few steps towards the source of the voice, I spotted it, a faint glow between the trunks of two old, gnarled trees. Its flickering light resembled an ember from the fire, yet it pulsed and waved like it had a life of its own. Curiosity pushed me forward, despite every instinct screaming to retreat. I approached cautiously, my heart thrumming in my chest. The moment I stepped closer, the light vanished. Darkness swallowed the space in an instant. I froze again, breathing heavily. My skin prickled as I scanned for movement, my flashlight trembling in my grip. Then, just ahead, deep within the trees, I caught a glimpse of the dark shape from my photo. It shifted into the light and I could see it more clearly now, an outline of a figure, its jagged edges and grotesque features twisting as if made from the shadows themselves. It stared at me with hollow eyes. That same twisted grin from the photo spread across its face. Panic rooted me to the ground. My instinct to flee battled with the need to understand what this was. I raised my camera, fingers trembling so much I could barely click the shutter. Just as I forced myself to take the shot, the figure vanished into the night. I stumbled back, heart racing as the laughter erupted again, this time closer, surrounding me. The forest seemed to come alive, shadows shifting and elongating as the cold wind picked up. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. Instead, I turned and ran, charging toward the safety of my tent, praying I'd make it back without being caught. Breathless, I finally dove inside and zipped the flap shut, expecting to hear footsteps. But even in the small, cramped space, I felt the ominous weight of something lurking outside. I pressed my back against the fabric, every sound amplified in the suffocating quiet. Then I heard it again, a soft voice, whispering through the flaps. "Don't hide. We just want to play." My heart stopped. I knew I had to face what was outside, but every instinct screamed for me to stay hidden. I pressed my back harder against the tent wall, the fabric cool against my skin. The whisper sent a chill racing down my spine. "We just want to play." I had no idea who or what was on the other side. Thinking quickly, I unzipped my backpack, fumbling to find my phone. I needed a light, something solid to keep my fear at bay. The screen flickered to life, momentarily illuminating the cramped space. I shone it at my camera, feeling a rush of relief that it hadn't fallen during my panicked sprint. Would the photos hold something that could explain what was happening? As I scrolled through the images from earlier, my heart pounded louder. There it was, the grotesque figure. But now, as I studied it, I noted something strange, a shimmer at the edge of its form that I hadn't seen before. It looked almost like mist. I felt a sense of dread fill the tent, squeezing the air out of my lungs. The laughter erupted again, louder this time, and I forced myself to silence my rising panic. I picked up the camera, holding it tightly, and took a deep breath. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice shaking. A heavy silence followed, stretched thin by my fear. With a sudden whoosh, the air changed. It felt heavier, almost electric. Every hair on my arms bristled. And then, without warning, the laughter stopped, replaced by a low hum that vibrated beneath my skin. My heart raced as I realized it seemed to be coming from all around me. I turned my phone in every direction, searching for a source of the noise. Just outside my tent, shadows danced, twisting at odd angles. I felt something brush against the fabric, sending a wave of terror over me. A moment later, with a sharp exhale, I whispered, "Leave me alone." I had no clue if it would respond. Maybe I sounded foolish, but I needed it to hear me. Just then, I heard what sounded like giggling, muffled and playful, mixing with the hum. The whispers filtered back, barely audible. "We want to play with you forever." I shuddered, visions of the grotesque figure taking over my mind. Suddenly, there was a sharp tug on the tent flap, as if something was trying to get in. I froze, my breath hitching. "No. Go away." I yelled, my voice coming out more like a plea. The tugging stopped but was quickly followed by a thud that rattled the ground beneath me. I was terrified to look. Grappling with panic, I grabbed my camera again, ready to document whatever came next. Then, in a flash, the hum intensified, setting my nerves ablaze. I noticed from the corner of my eye that the shadows around the tent were thickening into shapes. Frantically, I scanned the darkness with my phone, praying for a miracle. My flashlight hit the trees, and that same glow from before flickered, peeking through the branches. That was when the laughter returned, but this time, it echoed with delight. In that instant, clarity hit me. Whatever was out there didn't just want to scare me, it wanted me to join in. And that's when I saw it, a figure starting to form at the edge of the trees, glowing with an unearthly light, its shape twisting and morphing with the shadows. My instincts screamed at me to run, to escape, but I stood there frozen in fear. I needed to understand what they wanted before it was too late. Panic surged again. I couldn't afford to let them win. With one last look at the encroaching darkness, I stepped toward the flap, heart racing, ready to confront whatever emerged from the woods. As I pushed the flap aside, the cool night air rushed in, brushing against my skin like fingers. I stepped out of the tent, trying to steel myself against the unknown. Shadows flickered at the edge of the clearing, their movements almost playful. That's when it hit me, this was not just any normal night in the woods. The glowing figure stood still, its edges blurring in the darkness. It stretched and reshaped itself, almost as if it were a mirage. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding in my chest. "What do you want?" I demanded, my voice carrying a blend of fear and defiance. A wave of laughter rippled through the air as if the very trees were joining in. Suddenly, a smaller shape darted from behind the glow, giggling with delight. It moved with a childlike exuberance, skipping around the main figure. My breath caught in my throat. I wasn't just seeing spirits, I was witnessing a twisted little playtime. "I want to play," the smaller figure squealed, its voice high-pitched but unsettlingly joyful. My instincts screamed to run, but curiosity held me in place. "Come join us," it coaxed, pointing a tiny finger in my direction. I shook my head, feeling exposed under their relentless gaze. The larger figure shimmered slightly, the glow illuminating its features. I could see its face now, though it was grotesque, I couldn't help but notice a wild sort of beauty there. It was alluring, both fantastical and repulsive. "Play with us forever," echoed the voices, blending into a chorus that filled the night. A chill ran down my spine. Forever was not a word that should connect with them. Suddenly, the ground beneath me trembled. A low vibration surged through my feet, and I stumbled back, nearly losing my balance. The laughter grew louder, almost mocking me, as if they were reveling in my fear. The shadows twisted, racing toward me. I instinctively raised my phone, angling the camera toward them, desperate to capture something that might explain this madness later. But just as I took the picture, the hum intensified, almost shattering the night. The light flickered, and for a brief moment, everything went dark. I gasped, stumbling over roots and fallen branches, my mind racing. Had I angered them by taking the picture? I needed to know, but I was terrified of what I might discover. Then, out of the silence, a voice emerged, soft yet insistent. "Come play with us. We'll show you the beauty of the night." It was both inviting and threatening, pooling dread in my stomach. Resolute, I turned back to the shadows, gripping my camera tightly. "No. I won tea," I yelled into the darkness, feeling the weight of my own defiance. But instead of retreating, the figures seemed to pulse with energy, drawing closer. Waves of mist enveloped the clearing, coiling around my legs like a serpent. My heart pounded as a longing, an unexpected temptation washed over me. I hesitated, struggling against the pull they had on me. In that moment of indecision, I caught a glimpse of something remarkable, a face framed in the mist, both hideous and beautiful. I squinted to see clearer, but all too quickly the mist thickened. Then everything went dark, and I couldn't see anything at all. Panic surged anew, and I turned to where I thought my tent was. I needed to escape. But as I dashed away, I realized I wasn't just running from the figures. I was running from whatever was drawing me into the pleasure of their play. And that's when I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I froze. I didn't dare turn around. My mind raced with the possibilities of what might be waiting behind me. Instead, I focused on the weight of the hand. It was icy, seeping through the thin fabric of my shirt, sending a shock through my entire body. I wanted to scream, to push it off, but I couldn't move. "Play with us," whispered a voice. It was sweet, almost melodic, but laced with an edge that made my skin crawl. I felt the hand tighten, pulling me backward. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, I propelled myself forward, breaking free from its grip. I sprinted into the darkness, ignoring the branches that scratched at my arms. All I could hear was the frantic rhythm of my heartbeat and the echo of laughter behind me, mocking my panic. I didn't know where I was going, just away from that chilling presence. As I dashed deeper into the woods, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I fumbled for it, hoping to find light. The screen flickered on, casting a dim glow that illuminated my path. That's when I saw it. A path, narrow and overgrown, barely visible amidst the trees. It felt wrong, like it existed outside of time, but I needed an escape. I hesitated, looking back. I could still hear the distant laughter, but it sounded frustrated now, as if they were losing their game. I had to take the chance. As I stepped onto the path, I felt the temperature drop further. An eerie stillness enveloped me, swallowing my surroundings. I risked looking back again, half expecting to see the glowing figures charging down after me. But instead, the clearing was empty, and only the sliver of moonlight broke through the branches. Suddenly, my phone vibrated again. It was a notification from the picture I had taken earlier. I panicked as I pulled it up. The last shot, a dark blur, didn't reveal anything, but beneath it was another image, a message unreadable to my eyes at first. "Look closer." My breath hitched. I examined the photo again, squinting into the darkness of the blur. Small faces appeared, twisted and contorted, hovering just beyond the light. I dropped the phone, recoiling in shock. The laughter echoed in my ears, now sounding mockingly close. Without thinking, I bolted down the path. The shadows around me twisted in response, as if the trees themselves were trying to close in. The ground became uneven, roots snaking across the surface, trying to trip me. Just as I stumbled, I heard a rustle behind me, an unmistakable flurry of movement. Adrenaline crashed through me. My mind screamed to keep going, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was gaining on me. The air thickened, pushing back against my lungs, and I could barely take a breath. Then, I saw light in the distance, an opening, perhaps another clearing. I dashed toward it with every ounce of strength I had left, praying it offered salvation. As I approached, I felt heat wash over me, like stepping into a warm embrace. But just before I broke into the clearing, a shadow lunged past me, colliding with my shoulder. I lost my balance and tumbled to the ground. Instinctively, I shielded my face with my arms. The laughter swelled, now triumphant, vibrating through the air. From my curled position on the ground, I dared to glance up. The shadow loomed larger, its grotesque form distinct against the light of the clearing, and the realization crashed over me I hadn't escaped. I was trapped. The shock of the impact left me breathless. I lay there, fighting to regain my senses. The laughter hung in the air, cruel and taunting. With a heavy heart, I pushed myself up off the ground, still trying to comprehend what loomed over me. It was a figure, not quite human, with elongated limbs and a twisted face that almost seemed to shift with every glance. White eyes peered down, devoid of any warmth. It was as if the darkness itself had taken form. I scrambled backward, the rough ground scraping against my palms. My pulse raced as I felt something wet and cold against my leg. Panic struck me as I looked down. An ethereal mist was swirling closer, writhing like snakes, tightening around my ankles. "Why are you scared?" The creature cooed, its voice slithering through the air. "We just want to play." I glared up at it, a mix of fear and rage spurring me to my feet. "Stay away from me!" I yelled, although my voice trembled. My brain screamed for me to run again, but the mesmerizing aura of the figure kept me paralyzed. In that moment of hesitation, I noticed something glinting in the dirt at the edge of the clearing. It looked like a small mirror, reflecting the faint light of the moon. Without thinking, I lunged for it. Maybe it was a way to turn things around. As my fingers grasped the cool surface, a wave of energy surged through me, filling me with a strange confidence. I held it up, aiming it toward the figure. "Look!" I shouted just as the laughter pealed again, filling my ears with a dissonant melody. "Maybe you'll see yourself more clearly." The creature froze, its expression shifting momentarily. The reflection danced across its twisted features, and for the first time, I noticed something. It looked scared. Its mouth dropped open, and the laughter faltered. Then a roar erupted from its throat, a sound filled with fury and frustration. The mist around me tightened, and I stumbled back, instinctively holding the mirror closer. I glanced behind me into the woods. It felt like the entire forest was watching, waiting, entranced by this confrontation. I needed to act fast. Gritting my teeth, I took a deep breath. "If you want me, you'll have to show me your real face," I shouted defiantly. The creature recoiled for a brief moment, as if my words struck it. But in that second of vulnerability, I took off, sprinting toward the opposite side of the clearing, the distant trees promising some kind of safety. The mirror was still clutched in my hand, and I dared not look back, feeling the weight of its presence behind me. But then I heard it, a sudden crack, like a branch snapping. I froze. My heart dropped as dread settled in. This time, it wasn't just laughter, it was a growl. A low, menacing sound that sent chills down my spine. I risked a glance back. The figure was still there, but now it was joined by a group of others, their twisted forms gliding silently through the mist. I was outnumbered. The realization hit me hard. With each step closer they took, I felt the darkness closing in around me. And in the distance, a beacon of light emerged again, a glow that seemed to flicker with hope, though I was unsure where it led. I had to make a choice, and quickly. What would I risk next? The growl turned into a collective roar, and I finally turned to escape toward the light, knowing whatever it was, it couldn't be worse than facing the shadows behind me. As I dashed toward the light, I pushed my legs to move faster, every instinct telling me to escape the encroaching figures. The glow ahead flickered like a heartbeat, pulsing with promise, but the shadows behind me were getting closer. I could almost feel their breath on my neck, a chilling rush that urged me to quicken my pace. The ground beneath my feet felt uneven, roots snagging at my shoes as I ran. I was fully aware that this escape might lead me into deeper trouble, but I had to try. Just as I fully committed to the path ahead, I stumbled into a clearing, the light now brighter and more intense. It was a bonfire, crackling fiercely, surrounded by stones that appeared hastily arranged. My breath caught at the sight. It was abandoned, but still alive. I could see fresh wood sticking out, smoke spiraling up into the night sky. Whoever had been here might still be nearby. "Hello." My voice cracked as I called out, hope mixing with fear. There was no response, just the crackle of the fire and the distant rustle of leaves. I turned back toward the woods, and my stomach dropped. The figures were right there, peering out from the shadows, their eyes glistening like knives in the dark. I turned, frantically searching around the clearing. I noticed small items strewn about, an old canvas backpack, a torn blanket, and what looked like a journal partially buried in the dirt. I knelt down and pulled the journal out, expecting some critical clue. The cover was weathered and faded, but the last entry seemed recent. My heart raced as I read it aloud, "If you see them, don't make a sound. They love games. If you can't play, they'll come for you." Panic shot through me. I could hear the growls getting louder, the creatures closing in. The firelight flickered ominously, and I felt a sinking dread that the warmth from the flames wouldn't last. They could snuff it out at any moment. I gripped the mirror tightly, remembering its power against the first creature I faced. Maybe it could help me again. I held it up, turning to face the dark figures that had followed me. They paused, staring into the reflection as if it might reveal something they had long forgotten. In that moment, I noticed something else, a shape moving behind them, a larger figure lurking just out of sight. My breath caught. I didn't need to see it clearly to sense the menacing aura radiating from it. Suddenly, the light from the fire flickered violently, casting long, distorted shadows across the clearing. The tall trees around me sighed under an unseen weight, and darkness spread like a thick fog. I could barely see the smaller figures anymore, they turned into grotesque silhouettes that writhed unnaturally. Then, a voice cut through the chaos, deep and resonant. "Why do you seek the light, little one?" It boomed, echoing around me. My heart, or whatever was left of it, raced. I had two choices: hold my ground and confront this new threat, or flee deeper into the woods, where I knew they would follow. As my mind raced, the reflection from the mirror caught my eye again, and just for a fleeting moment, I believed it could be my only chance. But just then, I felt a pull toward the darkness at the edges of the clearing, an irresistible urge to step closer. I hesitated, anxiety clawing at my throat. And as I stood frozen, the larger figure stepped fully into the light. The larger figure loomed, a creature adorned with dark, matted fur that seemed to absorb the light around it. Its eyes, glowing like ember coals, locked onto mine. Every instinct in me screamed to flee, but my feet felt rooted to the ground. "What do you want?" I managed to croak out. My voice trembled, betraying my fear. The creature tilted its head, a horrifying grin spreading across its face. "You came seeking answers," it said, its voice like the rustle of dead leaves. "But what will you give in return?" Behind it, I could see the smaller figures, their movements more erratic now. They danced around the edges of the clearing, swaying as if caught in a hypnotic ritual. I couldn't tell if they were waiting for something or preparing to attack. "I don't have anything," I shouted, forcing the defiance into my tone. "I just want to get out of here." "Ah, a common desire," the creature replied, taking a step closer. "But escape often comes with a cost." My heart pounded in my chest. I quickly glanced at the fire, the flames now flickering dangerously low. I could sense that once it died, I'd be completely at their mercy. Desperation clawed at me, so I lifted the mirror, hoping it would once again act as my shield. The creature paused, its grin fading slightly as it stared into the reflection. "Forcing a choice is a tricky game," I muttered, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "What kind of game do you want to play?" The creature chuckled, and the sound sent chills down my spine. "Very clever, little one. You've caught my attention. But heed this, you must keep them entertained, or they will turn their gaze upon you." I knew what that meant. The smaller figures, with their gleaming eyes, were focused on me, excitement radiating from their movements. They reveled in the chance for sport. "All right," I said, trying to find my footing. "What do you want me to do?" Silence hung heavy in the clearing. The larger creature leaned forward, its eyes narrowing as if testing my resolve. "A riddle. Answer it, and perhaps you will see the dawn." I steadied my breathing, reminding myself I had no other choice. "Go ahead," I challenged. The creature's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with the wind. What am I?" I felt the weight of the forest pressing in on me. My mind raced as I tried to piece together the riddle. Every second felt like an eternity as the smaller figures began to circle closer, their excitement palpable. "Think carefully," the creature warned with a low growl, its eyes glinting eagerly. In that moment, a flicker of understanding sparked in my mind. "An echo!" I shouted, hoping I was right. A grin spread across the creature's face, this time predatory rather than amused. "You've answered well, but games are never won easily." Suddenly, the ground beneath me started to tremble, a shimmering portal opening just behind the bonfire. Shadows swirled around me, pulling me toward the edge of the clearing. "No!" I yelled, fighting against the unseen force. I couldn't let them take me. But as I struggled, I realized that the smaller figures were now closing in, their gleeful howls echoing into the night. And as chaos erupted around me, I felt my grip on reality slip. I was going to be swallowed by the darkness, whether I wanted to or not. I needed to find a way out, but I had no time left to decide. The portal pulsated with light, a mesmerizing swirl that beckoned me closer. I could feel its grip tightening around my torso, pulling me toward the unknown. Panic shot through me like a lightning bolt, fueling my resolve. I had to break free before it consumed me completely. With a desperate cry, I raised the mirror high, aiming it at the chaotic figures surrounding me. "You want a plaything? Then look at yourself. I shouted, forcing all my will into those words. The laughter around me faltered for just a moment as the light from the mirror caught their attention. The larger creature paused, its gaze riveted on the reflection. The smaller ones hesitated too, their childlike glee dimming as they clustered together, watching the mirror's flickering surface. There was a shift in the air, the laughter muffling into a hushed murmur. What sorcery is this? The larger figure growled, its eyes narrowing further. It was my chance. Seizing the moment, I backed away from the portal, finding my footing on unsteady ground. I turned to flee, sprinting toward the trees once more, heart pounding in my ears. The forest was dark and twisted, but I didn't stop running. I could feel the heat of the bonfire diminishing, the abyss was calling. Behind me, chaos erupted as the figures realized their grip on me was slipping. I could hear the frustration coating their laughter, tinged now with something darker, something that hinted at rage. I risked a glance over my shoulder as I ran, and to my horror, I saw shadows launching forward from the clearing, the darkness slithering like a living being. The figures were chasing me, their forms blurred and chaotic. I surged forward, branches snapping beneath my feet as I barreled through the underbrush. My lungs burned from the exertion, but I wouldn't stop until I reached the safety of my car, the whirring engine promising an escape. All those hours spent wandering through the woods now felt like years, the weight of the wilderness closing in, suffocating, filled with memories of laughter and whispered voices. Suddenly, I burst into a familiar clearing, the path I had taken when I first arrived. The campsite was just ahead, the car glinting faintly in the moonlight. I could hear the laughter closing in behind me like a terrible symphony, no longer playful but predatory. Just as I drew closer, the thrum of energy surged back. The shadows from the forest spilled into the clearing, darting around me in frantic circles. "You can't leave," they sang, their voices like sinister echoes that darkened the air. I fumbled for my keys, fingers trembling as I finally felt their cool touch. With a deep breath, I sprang to the car and yanked the door open, diving inside. I turned the key in the ignition, praying desperately for the engine to roar to life. It sputtered, coughed, and I felt a rush of dread wash over me. But with one more turn, it finally started, the sound cutting through the oppressive silence like a knife. I pressed the gas pedal with all my strength, tires screeching against the gravel as I tore away from the campsite. The laughter faded into the background but lingered, echoing in my head like a haunting melody. I kept my eyes glued to the road ahead, my heart racing, convinced I could feel them chasing me still. As I drove away from the woods and the mischief lurking within, a weight settled in my chest. I could feel the eyes of the forest still watching, holding countless secrets hidden in its depths. I don't know if what happened was a trick of the mind or something far more sinister. I found myself driving as far away as I could from that terrible place, but the laughter followed me in dreams, whispering promises of eternal play always just out of reach. When the sun rose the next day, I sat in my apartment, photos of the forest spread out before me. Among them was that dark shape, the one I had seen in the shadows long before. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching me still. I never returned to the Appalachian woods. There were unanswered questions that gnawed at me. What did those figures truly want? Was it all an illusion, or was there something real in those shadows? Every photograph I took after that felt tainted, every whisper of wind a reminder of the laughter still echoing in my mind. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes I wonder if something still lingers out there, in those woods, if the laughter plays on in the dark. But mostly, I try not to think about it, though I catch myself glancing back toward those distant mountains on clear days, wondering what secrets they still keep.